Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde, Jean-Guy Bourguignon on this beautiful Saturday, April 11th for EFA15. The, the subject is how I lost almost 80 pounds in 10 months and how I did it. But I want to tie that, very important to the situation we're all in right now, pandemic-wise, and the pandemic system. And I'm going to get into systems. And I'm going to talk about health and the respiratory health. So all these things, and I'm going to tell you how I did it and how it was easy for me. It was easy for me. I figured out my way that it worked for me. But before I do that, a lot of the stuff we're missing out right now, and like I'm looking out, like I'm thinking today of a nice beard shave, a hot foam shave, and the family at New York Hair Salon here in Ottawa, Marina, Vincenzo, and the New York family. Well, I think about these little ingredients of life, right? All those little ingredients of life that bring so much to you in life. I miss that. And this is why these conversations are important, because when you look at that, when by the way, I love you, your family. When I look at those things in life and how things can be avoided, solutions, right? And I look at, if you look at the pandemic, if you look at the virus, and you're gonna learn that how I speak. When I speak, I try to have the it doesn't matter when I say everything and everywhere I'm talking about. If you look at all your grassroots, if you look at all your different religions, different ethnicities, different cultures, different countries, different geographical areas, different everything, right? And you'll have a commonality. And that's what I'm talking about, the commonality. And when you look at that commonality, you look at the virus, the commonality is a respiratory, correct? So on those respiratory, the underlying issues of respiratory, obesity, respiratory, right? A lot of these conditions, predisposed conditions, that some of them are, and I don't want to get into the medical side of it and what is created by food and not food. I'm just going to tell you, a lot of these things, food helps. A lot of these children's medical conditions, food helps. A lot of the conditions, and I'm going to get into autophagy. I'm going to get into, I'm not going to break it down. I'm not going to break it down for you, but I'm just going to say the word autophagy. I did not know what that word was. I had no clue what that word was, and I'm not an idiot. And I was asking my daughters, I was asking a lot of individuals, do you know what autophagy is? Do you know what gremlins in your body, the secretion, how it works, and intermittent fasting? And I started educating myself. And when I started educating myself on that, it's like nobody knew about it. Why isn't that taught in school? But that'll be another system I'm going to talk about, because all these systems come into a lot of things, right? So I'm going to go into what I did and how I did and why I did it. And if you look at the geographics of the world, how it's important going forward with viruses, what we do today, what I did last June 3rd, I am so glad I did it. I am so glad that intrinsically that what's been going on in my mind, and the vision that I am, my path that I'm walking today was an intrinsic path. And those intrinsic moments in life and whatever you're building, there's always those key little ingredients of life that wake something up. And I when I was 340, solid, whatever, like strong and that kind of stuff, but I was still overweight. I was still fat. And I have a business partner that would tell me, you're fat. He would tell me that. And I had my daughters would razz me, right? They would be, they would razz me. And then my wife would be caring about my health and that kind of stuff, right? Because I was getting big. I was 340. I was 6'2", 340. And that was June 3rd. And then what happened, everything was hurting, right? The breathing. When I say respiratory here, this is where you know where I'm going here. You know where I'm leading when I talk respiratory. When I was talking respiratory, the breathing, going up the stairs was hard. If I went to the dojo and I had the time, that was hard. The breathing. When I was on the spin bike downstairs or just jumping rope, that was hard. That was hard. And I felt it. And then they say for every pound you lose in weight, you take off 4 pounds off your knees and 6 pounds off your hip. Now multiply that by 80, like by 80 pounds right now. That's how much pressure I've taken off my limbs. Take a brand new vehicle, take a state-of-the-art 3500 HD, whatever you want to take out there, and load it and load it and load it. Eventually it breaks, right? Eventually it splinters. Eventually the wheels pop. That was an analogy somebody told me one time, and it's true. It breaks up. And when somebody is not healthy and overweight and all these things, it leads to a lot of underlying issues, correct? And a lot of these underlying issues is like kerplunk. When you're pulling that little stem and all those marbles and they start falling, kerplunk. And I use that analogy because when my mother had ALS, that's what one of the doctors said. It's like kerplunk. Every time you pull something, something falls, right? So every time something breaks, something else breaks. That's the cycle. Same thing with obesity. Same thing with health. So when my daughter, and here's the moment in life, when my daughter, not this birthday, but the previous birthday, when she told me at my birthday, she read me a card, and in the card, it talks about how she wants me to be there for her when she gets married. Basically, long story short, to get healthy, to stay healthy, to be healthy. And that's one of those moments that kind of poof in my mind, right? She clipped a Superman tag on my business bag, which I obviously still have with me. And she said, I want you to keep that with you because it's a reminder of what I told you. Right, coming from a 13-year-old girl, right? There's a man that I have a lot of love and respect for, and he said it's our duty to teach, and I always use that because it is our duty to teach. And my daughter taught me, the teacher got taught, right? So, and in those moments, and in those moments of respect and all the stuff we're missing, it's important. So, what happened from that is I saw this article on this doctor. It was a Dr. Kevin Jean Dewey, and how he lost all this weight. And then from that, it put me to a path of looking at people that were following intermittent fasting lifestyle, that were following certain different lifestyles out there. There's so many different ones, but there's certain ones that I found 10 years later, they hadn't gained them back. 10 years later, they still look great. There's a lot of the YouTube celebrities right now out there, the gentlemen that I follow. I don't want to give out the names because I don't want to miss anybody. There's a lot of great, real good speakers out there, knowledgeable YouTube channels out there that I have a lot of respect for. So I started looking at all those channels. I started looking at all the research and that kind of stuff. So me, what I'm going to talk about is the way I did it. What worked for me. What took me from 340 pounds down to 263.6 this morning on April 11th. And what took me there. And people ask me, how much weight are you going to lose? I don't know. Wherever my body takes me. Because I'm going to talk to you about what happens with intermittent fasting, with autophagy and that kind of stuff. But wherever my body takes me is where I'm going to go. And if I balance out at like, and here's the thing with the people that told you that the 10 years later they still never put on the weight back. If you look at them, the skin draping, there's no skin draping with this lifestyle. The way that I'm doing, there's no skin draping. Your abs come out, your arms and tries and buys and chest, everything starts toning, slowly starts toning. Okay, I'm a 54-year-old man. I'm not 20 no more. I understand that, but it's like you're reversing the ball. The youth is coming out, right? And you feel that internally also. Like your spirit, your mind, your soul, everything, you feel that internally. So everything is awakened, right? Everything is awakening. And you hear a lot of that, these kind of talkings with people that lose weight. But when I'm looking at the pandemic, when I'm looking at respiratory pandemics, when I'm looking at viruses, when I'm looking at the evolution of virus, these viruses, these pandemic, not new, right? There's histories of pandemics on Earth. We just got to do is search it up. There's lots of history of pandemic, lots of history of viruses going forward. Unless, I love this analogy. I heard somebody say, unless you can stop the wind. Unless you can stop the wind, there's going to be more viruses. The propagation of this virus is going to go up and down. It's going to go seasonal, but it's going to be there. Right? It's not going to disappear. They evolve. They get stronger, correct? Like novel virus, this brand new one. It's novel, it's new. Right now it's attacking the lungs. Why? So all these things, that's evolution. Whatever you want to call it, that's what's happening. But what they do know, commonality, grassroots, is that what it's affecting. And one of the things is that people that are, and I know some people out there are very healthy that have passed away, they have underlying issues also. Right? There's underlying issues in a lot of them, and they're going to figure all that out. But one of the big key elements: strong immune system, strong health, strong respiratory, strong proves that people fight it. So when you're looking going forward, and I'm looking at evolution of viruses, looking at histories of pandemics and history thing, and the world population getting bigger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then they're talking about vaccines and mandatory vaccines. And think about this, right? When we could solve it through health, imagine if the entire world got healthy. Imagine. There's a lot of money made from people being unhealthy. There's a lot of systems out there for people being unhealthy. Big systems, big system. But imagine if the whole world got healthy. Imagine the whole world got lived a lifestyle that was living a good lifestyle but got healthy. You imagine your pandemic fears, you imagine your medical systems, you imagine a lot of these dissipating things happening, right? A lot of these things, and I want to get into that. I'm gonna focus on my lifestyle here, but all this is to say, look at your lifestyle living in a pandemic world. Look at your lifestyle living in a virus world. Look at your lifestyle in living in the next several months ahead of us, probably a year, a couple of years, because health is going to be a key factor. People are going to be knocking on farmers' doors. Hello, do you have any fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and fresh everything, right? Being sustainable, all that stuff that I talk about. This is why I'm glad I did what I did back in June 3rd. My daughter's message, my friends were asking, my wife were asking me, heavy breathing, intrinsically, all that stuff. I'm glad I started on June 3rd to where I am today and growing forward. Okay, so basically, in a nutshell, what I do, I I I started the intermittent fasting, like I mentioned that a moment ago. But I start with my day, and I don't want to go into all the ingredients. I don't want to go into all the stuff, right? But I'm gonna give you everything I do. But I just don't want to start naming labels and blah blah blah. So I make these puppies up every day. I leave the house with two, three of them in my hand, right? I have water in my office, that kind of stuff. But water. No, I don't want to go religious. I said this before, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Socrates, it doesn't matter who was scholared. If you go back in history, religious history, it's in the books. It's in all the scholars' writings that water and fasting are two key things, commonality. Remember that word commonality, I like to use that. Commonality, water and fasting were two key things to clean your body. And us as human beings, we go all the way back, right? So our body is engineered to process itself, its own junk. So you talk about the waste, your waste, and then waste garbage. So our body is actually already programmed for this through autophagy, through gremlins, and I don't want to get into those details. You can research this, but we're already programmed for this. And what that does is we get rid of our waste when we eat certain ways, when we don't introduce certain things, and we follow a pattern of our DNA, how we're designed, right? And all of a sudden, our toxins and all that stuff disappears and dissipates. And all these medical conditions disappear and dissipates. And certain conditions amongst certain demographics disappear and dissipates when everybody starts living a different lifestyle. So when I look at that, when I look at the intermittent fasting lifestyle, I got into intermittent fasting. I started 16/8. So I was eating 8 hour window out of 16. That's what I did. So for 16 hours, I don't eat, and my window was between 11 to 7 p.m. So 11 a.m., 7 p.m., that's what I would eat. At that time, June, I was eating 3 meals a day. I would break it down, like I would have a lunch, a snack, and a dinner. That's what I was doing. I did that for several months. And then that kind of grew to 18/6. So my 18/6, I didn't eat for 18 hours, but I would eat for 6. And then with that, I'm going to put this down for a second. With that, the windows are expanded to OMAD, almost like a 1 meal a day, all different lifestyles. So what I found with me, and I'm not talking about me here, what I found is that when I removed sugar out of my life, completely removed sugar as much as possible out of my life, because we know sugar is addictive. It lights up the same parts of your brain as heroin and cocaine, all that research. When I took sugar out of my life, when I took processed foods out of my life, do I still open some processed food? Do I still open some, when I say processed, healthy processed food, minimal ingredients, organic, little things? I still do that. But the processed food, I took that out of my life. And I developed a routine, a natural routine, just organically natural routine. And then food became fuel. So my truck is full now. If I drive home, and I'm not going to stop by the gas station to fuel up my vehicle. Why? Because there's fuel in it. I don't need it. Same thing applied to food. I don't need to eat that much, right? So what happened by removing the sugar, by removing the processed foods, by removing all that, the addiction of food literally dissipated. And then with that, I started eating 3 times a day to 2 times a day to 1 to 2 times a day. During the week, I'm usually eating one meal a day, and I'll explain to what I do. And during the weekend, sometimes I'll throw in a second meal, a good brunch or whatever. Like today, Saturday, I just had my liquids, which I'll explain. And that's what I do. Why? And if you look at our DNA, if you take away the lifestyle of the last 100 years, and you go back to the last few thousand years before that, or whatever you want to believe in, millions of years on Earth, whatever we believe in, our DNA going forward, we were engineered that way. Our body naturally gets rid of toxins and all that stuff when we don't eat. And then when we're always eating the 500 calorie muffin or the 500 calorie donut or the 1,000 calorie coffee or whichever, when we're constantly doing that, our bodies constantly start, the mechanism, the engine, the system of our bodies stops and starts working on that. They have to get rid of that. Right, they're working on that. I'm just simplifying everything here, but that's what they do. So that's why we're always gaining weight, we're getting bigger, getting sicker, all that stuff, right? So I went back to how my mom used to cook. I'm one of those guys, 54 years old here. I'm one of those guys, the big black frying pans with the lard in it, and they would keep their stuff, their lard for the next meal, and the containers would open all raw ingredients. They would make everything homemade. I come from that generation. And then as I grew up and in the processed food world, etc., and if I look at my youth and I look at today, right, and you hear about these lineup sites, look at the old 1960s pictures of Miami Beach or 1970 lineups at theaters or whatever. Look at those things. You rarely see a big person, right? It's because we didn't live this way. So I went back to living that way. I went back to living that way. I took processed food out of my life. I took the sugars as much as possible out of my life. And then I say if it's not made by Mother Nature, by Earth, by God, if it's not natural, I don't want it. Right? I don't want it. If it's not natural, I don't want it. I try to move it away. Do I go to restaurants? Absolutely. Do I eat real food at restaurants? Absolutely. Do I drink my wine and live my life? Absolutely. Do I enjoy life? Absolutely. But I did it in a certain way. And so here's my basic routine. My water, one tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, my creatine, one little scoop of it, and whatever container you have, mine is a little scoop, and then the salt, 3 grinds of Himalayan salt in this. That's what I have. I make 2 or 3 of these in the morning before I leave the house. I have my water everywhere else. But water is the number one thing, whether it's water and fasting, 2 things that clean your body, okay? So that's the first thing in my body. After that, throughout my mornings or my day, like a day like today, I didn't have any other food to say food. I have my liquids. I have my black coffees, I have my green teas, I have my sparkling waters, I have my water. So that's what I have. I have my waters, my liquids, my non. So coffees and green teas and espressos and sparkling water, they don't have calories, right? So the minimal calories, they don't affect you. So I fill myself up with that easily because I don't need anything else. I honestly don't. And then what happens, and if I do, sometimes I want to have something of substance, I'll make myself a fat coffee. I do one of those fat coffees that you see all over the place. I made my own little video. You can look at that one. But I do one of those, frothy, sustainable. It's nice. It's so I'll have that because I really don't need food. So that's what I have in my day. Okay, so my waters, my black coffees, my espressos, my sparkling water. I might have a fat coffee. If you're just starting it, start with 2 meals and whatever you want to do. Just limit your meals. Like try to have 3 or 2 or no more than 4. Like just try to have your windows within the windows, right? Put your windows within the windows. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. And then with that, what I did is when I do eat, it counts. I ate a real meal. I ate a good meal. So I'm very blessed to have my wife and daughters that support me and help me. I have my own section in my pantry. That is a Jean-Guy section. I don't want any processed nothing in there. I want my own stuff, right? And again, there is some processed stuff out there. I buy my konjac noodles, for example. That's a plant. It's a plant. It's like pasta. Not like pasta, like pasta. So those that cook it well, like my wife makes a very good stir fry with it, makes a very good pasta with it, etc. Is it different? Yes, but it makes it really good. There's a lot of restaurants that offer stuff like that. So my point is that's what I do, like those kind of meals, but big meals. I still have my big meals. I still have real food. I still have the wines with my food, my desserts. My wife makes me these gorgeous, delicate, chocolatey desserts, right? So I mix that in. I have good meals. So I'm not missing out on anything. Uh, I've taken out the processed food. I've taken out the sugars. I've added the liquids, right? The routine of liquids, the availability of liquids. I have one good meal, all real food. Like if it's not made by God, it's not made by Earth. If it's not made by Mother Nature herself, I don't want it. I try not to have it. I still have my restaurants and that kind of stuff. What I do is when I break my fast, right? So break fast, breakfast, right? They made the word breakfast pretty much out of break fast. So what does that mean? The first thing in your body, the break fast, was it was supposed to be something good. So what I do, the first thing in my body, because my body now on average is 23, 24 hours that I don't eat on average. During the tomorrow, it'll probably be 18 hours. Today it'll be around 24 hours, but 18, 16 hours. So your body's empty for, say you start at 12 hours, then you move it up to 14, move it up to whatever. You build it up, and then you figure out what works for you. Figure out what works for you. That's what I did. What works for me. And then when I do those windows, and when I do my meal, my first thing in my body to break my fast, I make sure it's healthy. Because everything gets absorbed, right? So there's where I put my supplements, my mushroom supplements, my curcumin supplements, my collagen supplements. This is, and I don't want to get into all that, but that's the first thing in my body before the food, before I have a real meal, is my supplements with my liquids, and then I have a fantastic meal. And then if you're in the evenings or whenever outside your windows of your meals, you have your liquids, right? Do I drink my wine? I count that as a liquid. When I drink my wines, sorry, that's my phone. When I drink my wines, that kind of stuff, I don't obviously have them all the time. I'll have them tonight. I'll have wine with dinner. I had wine with dinner last night. I will do that. I don't have it every night, but I do that. So that's part of my liquid combined with food. That's what I do. That I combine. And if I went to a festivity, there was glasses of wine. Absolutely, I'll have one. I will have one. I'll enjoy life. I still enjoy life. I still do all that. So I did all that, and I still do it. And I still lost 80 pounds. So I'm doing something right, correct? And like I said earlier, and I think I mentioned this, like people ask me how much weight do you want to lose? Wherever my body takes me, wherever it goes, like wherever it's supposed to be. Whatever, if I lose 10 more pounds, 20 more pounds, whatever it's supposed to be, that it balances out at, that's where it goes, right? That's what I'm going to do. So living this lifestyle, and the thing is, it became easy. It really did. I took the addiction out. It became a lifestyle, and a lifestyle that if you're interested in, like, just look at all these things that I mentioned. You follow that lifestyle going into this virus world. You want to be healthy, respiratory healthy, all that stuff. Anyways, wishing each and every one of you a most spectacular, memorable weekend. And Jean-Guy Bourguignon, EFA15. Thank you. Merci.